And just like that, we are back. You know, we may have taken like a full 2 years off or something like that. But guess what? You're going to get like these videos something like back to back or something. I don't even know. But let's get this quick intro out of the way. Jake, what do you got to say?
I'm already feeling the burnout. I think we need to take another 2-year break.
A little hiatus, a little sabbatical.
Yeah.
You know. But we're back at it. Top 15 defensive players in the draft. I think, you know, if you didn't watch the last one, honest to God, I think our hottest takes were right at the end, and I think we agree. We agree on our hottest take, which is absolutely awesome, so that you can all argue it with us in the comment section. So you should go back to the top 15 offensive video. Watch that first, and even if you want to, just go all the way to the end to hear how amazing a certain player is that's in the draft on offense that I don't think a lot of other people are going to say is the number one player. But yeah, you should also just watch it all the way through to realize, you know, who the best players are. Sorry to get a little confusing, but we're only a minute in, and now we'll get right into it. I'm going to go first this time. Jake went first last time, so I'm going to go first this time. And that way Jake's hot take will end this episode. Maybe. I don't know. I really don't know how your list is structured. So, I mean, that's the fun of this, right? And I think we decided this time that we're going to go in groups of 5 for our top 15. So I'll talk about 5 players, and then Jake will get to discuss them, and then I'll talk about the next 5 players, so on and so forth. Then we'll alternate, and that'll bring us to the point of, you know, maximizing our amount of just controversial opinions and such. Honorable mentions for me to begin. So these are guys that fell just a little bit outside of my top 15 defensive players in this year's draft. First off, any Alabama player that I did not name that is in the NFL draft this year in the following top 15, they're an honorable mention. Then Dorian Williams, the linebacker from Tulane, is very interesting. He actually plays like a linebacker, which most guys don't do nowadays, which is, you know, kind of why I like him. But, you know, limited tape is really probably the only reason that he's not cracking the top 15. Then there's 2 other guys that sort of seemed very similar to me. I've got Yasir Abdullah from Louisville, who I've listed at edge/linebacker. And Drew Sanders, who I have listed in the opposite manner as linebacker/edge from Arkansas. And I just thought that both of them filled a very similar role. And almost they kind of hurt each other. They probably both would have had a chance to make my top 15, but the fact that they both exist kind of hurts them because I really felt like they were kind of interchangeable. So it's just like they're not going to be as prioritized as the other guys. And really what they do is kind of rush the passer a little bit, kind of get out into space every once in a while, play some coverage. But oftentimes I was seeing them more head towards the line of scrimmage. Sometimes they were off ball. But yeah, that's basically it for all those guys. Anything you would like to say about my honorable mentions without revealing anything too much about your list?
I really liked the Tulane linebacker. What was his name again? He's an honorable mention for my honorable mentions.
Dorian Williams.
Yeah, he was on the outside looking in for my honorable mentions. And it's the same thing for you. The tape is just so limited that I formed an opinion on it, but I wasn't really convicted in it. So I just didn't want to put him on that top 15, especially when there's not enough for me to, you know for sure what I'm thinking.
Okay. You know, I'm sorry for, a little bit approaching this a little bit less from a, football perspective and approaching your English. But you are an English major, so I hope that's appropriate for everybody enjoying our show. Hearing this is absolutely the correct use. Hearing the word convicted is correct, but I'm just so used to hearing people use the other form, saying strong conviction about somebody rather than just saying convicted. Wow, I mean that's just truly declaring it. Like, wow, you're very opinionated.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Hey man, putting that degree to use. Future degree to use.
That's good. Future degree. In progress, people.
Yeah.
Okay, now my top 15. Hopefully, we didn't take too long to get here. So. At number 15, I have Deonte Banks, the cornerback from Maryland. The things I liked about him is he has tight coverage for extended periods of time. We didn't get to talk. I did not bring up my opinion about Jordan Addison. One of the things that I was going to say about Jordan Addison that I didn't get to because he was in your top 15 and he wasn't into mine was that Jordan Addison was really a guy who I thought profited a ton off the fact of Caleb Williams' scramble plays, and that he was adding a ton of yardage to his totals and just basically able to disregard the play and then catch balls in the open field because he could, go away from the route tree and actually gain more yardage through that. That's not even a discussion for now on whether or not that's a good or a bad thing. But the thing is that Deonte Banks would absolutely be his kryptonite because Deonte Banks was able to stay with everybody for extended periods of time, even when it felt like the quarterback was running out of the pocket and that type of thing. He did not show the turnover potential that other guys did, but I really liked that from him. Derek Hall, then, is my number 14 guy. He's an edge from Auburn. I really liked him. He's a good athlete, but for the NFL, he doesn't make you think freak, which is kind of an interesting thing to say when he's still up high, but it's like he's still not a freak, though. What makes him great is that he seems to quickly identify like what the opponent is doing and attack the weakness in how they're going after the play. So like this guy's not a guy that I'm like, I don't think he's ever going to be just an insane player ever, but because he's always going to attack the opponent in the correct manner, I think he could be a very consistent player that has a long NFL career. And you potentially look up and like I definitely don't know, like he's lower on my list for top 15 guys, so I'm not saying that he's a guaranteed star, but like it could be like by the end of his career it's like wow, like on a year-to-year basis I was never really focused on Derek Hall, but by the end of his career he gets up there in like sack totals, TFLs, specifically sack totals, because that's how we like to look at edge players nowadays, and it's like wow, he put together a solid career. Number 13 for me is, oh my goodness, I should have attempted to pronounce this before now, Adetomiwa, Adebawore. Wow, that was probably about as bad as I could have done. He's a defensive end from Northwestern. I think I butchered that. It seems like you didn't know who I was talking about, and then once I said that, you realized who I was talking about. Adetomiwa, Adebawore. I don't know. I'm going to need to hear somebody say that and then just disregard the spelling because that's not going to help me at all. But anyways, he tries to win around the outside quick, but then quickly shifts back to good hand use to recover if necessary. And that's what I like to see. I've talked a lot about, even on here in the past, even though it was a long time ago now, just talking about how like you hate to see guys nowadays that are exclusively basically just like, I'm going to sprint around the edge, and if I don't win there, then I'm not going to win at all. But this guy, he does attempt to sprint around the edge, but then I really like his hand play once he isn't able to win. And by the way, that doesn't mean that he still does sometimes win when he attempts that speed rush at first. He's also out of his stance extremely fast, and if you choose to align him inside, even though I'm calling him a defensive end, it's like a 3-4 defensive end. If you align him inside and loop him to the edge, I think he's going to wreak havoc just because of his speed. You're not even going to see him coming. And then 2 more guys. Keon White, the defensive end from Georgia Tech. This is a much simpler description for a guy. He's a very strong bulldozing force. I'm thinking Baltimore or New England. I like this guy against the run and the pass. And then also a very simple description for my number 11 player, Calijah Cancey, defensive tackle from Pitt. It's hard to watch these Pitt guys without thinking of Aaron Donald, especially at the defensive tackle position. But I mean, boy, he really seems to be mimicking him in his game, and it's crazy because He's a guy who, if I remember correctly, doesn't weigh a ton, but has still a tremendous speed and power combo, and it was really impressive for me to see all that. So that's my 15 through 11. Let's see, I've got a cornerback, Deonte Banks, the corner, the Derek Hall, edge, double A, the defensive end from Northwestern, Keon White, the defensive end from Georgia Tech, Calijah Cancey, the defensive tackle from Pitt, and I can tell you that based on me positioning these guys, Keon White would be my highest ranked defensive end because other guys higher I have listed either at edge or defensive tackle. So Keon White would be my highest ranked guy that I have at defensive end there.
Okay. Well, a lot of these guys, I mean, I don't want to give my list away, but I don't think it would be giving it away if I say that I don't have a good chunk of those guys on my list. Calijah Cancey is one of my honorable mentions, though. I loved what I saw from him. He probably had the best swim move out of all the interior defensive linemen that I watched. That it was just insane, and yeah, the mimicking Aaron Donald's play style at Pitt, like I thought the same exact thing too. Where I'm like, oh wow, this is a lot like Aaron Donald. But then I had to check myself. I'm like, are you just saying this because he's a Pitt Panther?
I don't think so.
No, he plays very similar to that. And one thing that I found myself saying a lot, just in general, about the interior D lineman that I watched was high motor, but he is actually the epitome of it. He just does not give up on a play at all. And it's funny too because I checked myself on the Aaron Donald thing. I was like, let's get more reasonable here. Who does he remind you of if you like had to set a floor? I was like, he's a lot like Ed Oliver. And
stronger.
That's what I wrote, Ed Oliver-esque for him in level of play and the pressure he creates. So I do like Calijah Cancey. Deonte, I'm getting all out of order here for you, but Deonte Banks, really good corner too. He's not on my list, but he just seemed to be attached by the hip to whoever he was covering every single play. And what was really impressive with that was, out of all the corners I watched, I think he played the most off-man coverage out of everyone else, because it seems like all these corners love to press or can press and are good at it, and he was pressing the least and still being able to just stick so close to his guy even after they had a full head of steam and were running past him. He just stayed attached to the hip by him. And then I had the same critique too, where the interception numbers aren't there. Not that that's a bad thing. It's just watching what you and I watch to evaluate them, you can't be fully sure if the interception numbers aren't there because they're allowing receptions or they're playing such great coverage that the ball's not getting thrown their way.
Yeah, and just in case any of the audience was wondering, we are not watching back whole games. I just told you in the last episode, we literally did this in a week, and we probably both watched around 100 players over the course of 1 week, which is a lot if you haven't done it before. You guys should try it sometimes. Did you I have to say this is very unprofessional of me for asking this, but double A at Northwestern, did you watch him? And if you watched him, did you actually listen to his name? Because the other guys,
yes.
Okay, can you give me a rough pronunciation?
I wrote it down in my notes. I had to pull it up. I did not rank him, but I did pull him up, and I did write phonetically how to pronounce his name. Adetomiwa Adebawore.
Adebawore. Wow. That's all I'll say. Man, people are gonna have to see some spell. You're gonna have to check your own spellings out for that. Jeez, that's ridiculous. All right. Did you watch Derek Hall or Keon White? Because I kind of thought they were similar.
Derek Hall, I think where I had my list cut off, he was the last guy, like, not in. So I didn't watch him. I did watch Keon White though. I was impressed with him. I don't uh I don't want to. I don't have him ranked, but I also don't want to talk too much about him because just that position in general. I think I view it differently than you.
Okay.
So I just want to avoid talking about that in general. But he was pretty good. Just not an honorable mention for me, but again, like an honorable mention to the honorable mention list.
You see, and I know this is a little bit better than what the Patriots usually do, but I would not be surprised to see, since we know the Patriots are just going to pick some guy that like nobody's got on their radar. I think Keon White fits their scheme perfectly, and also like we are very clearly saying like these are our top 15s according to us. This is a guy I would like because I would run a 3-4 if I were a coach in the NFL. So it's like this is a guy that I would really like. I don't know how many other coaches are going to fall in love with him, but if there was one team that was going to pick him in the first round, it would 100% be New England. And I'm sure Belichick would be happy to pick a guy from a school like Georgia Tech that's going to, at least show the fact that the guy's got to at least be somewhat intelligent, and he produced at a fairly high level as well. So, yeah, with those things being said, I can move into my next group of 5. Okay, I'm excited for number 10 because, this is the other guy that I was talking about. I talked about this with our offense. Josh Downs and Zay Flowers were the two guys that I was willing to be okay with going to. I talked about how in the offense video, I talked about how I thought it was important I think it's important for players to still maintain size if they can, while basically staying at the same speed. And I think there's a very limited number of players that actually have a legitimate excuse to not gain weight. And I said there's 3 guys that I think can do that in this draft. I think every other guy should probably learn to put some weight on if they're not already at a good size for their position. Like I said, Zay Flowers, Josh Downs. Third and finally, and the number 10 player on my defensive top 15 is Emmanuel Forbes Jr. from Mississippi State. This man, it's incredible that you can have a guy that is I literally wrote you'd assume just seeing his like measurables, you'd assume he's going to be a liability. But the interesting thing is when I saw him in the run game, he did not show like any like lack of motivation to go up and make a tackle in the run game. And that was the main concern. The second thing is then, okay, but what about when we get him isolated and we throw like a rocket or a bubble and he's the guy out there to try to go and make a play? By the way, this is a really lanky corner. He's like under 170 pounds and over 6 foot. I can't remember how many inches exactly, but he's also over 6 foot. So that just really gives you an idea of his like build. But when those plays come to him, he's able to attack the ball so quickly on the rocket or the bubble because he's so slim. He's got the speed for it. And it makes it so that he's able to jar out rockets and bubbles before the receiver can even complete the catch, which I honestly don't think I've seen another player be able to just jump on stuff like that so consistently. And the other reason you can't take this away from him is, like I said, I don't have any lack of confidence in his effort or at least mentality when coming down in the run game, even though really I think if I was weighing in at that weight and that size, I may have some concern coming down. He's a stronger person mentally than I am, because the thing that really makes him a great player is how much he turns defense into offense. And like I said, I already talked about all those other things first. I am not afraid that he's going to be able to run with any receiver that I put in front of him. He will be able to do that. He's protected on pass plays with offensive pass interference, those types of rules from just getting shoved over and that type of thing. In the old NFL, it may have been a concern, but not anymore. and just the sheer amount of pick sixes and turnovers he created for Mississippi State, which ended up putting him in the record books, really means that anything that I would have a concern normally for size, when, like I said, with the offense, a bunch of my tight end rankings were affected by the size. I think he's one of the 3 players I watched in this draft where, even though he doesn't have the size normally, I completely would go for him and give him a chance, even though I wouldn't normally do that. And honestly, I said I was going to go through my 5, but I feel like I went so hard on that explanation that maybe I'll give you the chance to talk. If you have nothing to say, that's okay, and I'll go to the next 4.
Yeah, I don't really have anything to say. Okay. I'll talk about him later.
Okay. Then, my next 4 guys in my next group of 5, he was number 10. My number 9 is Sidney Brown, the safety from Illinois. Sidney Brown covers like he's a corner in man-to-man coverage. He doesn't discount anything in the run game either, which it's just like I couldn't help but get away from the fact that for me, I don't know what he is for you, but he just gives me the Hufanga remembrances because of the fact that like he just feels like he's going to be a player that's going to have an impact. And the other portion of that is he's got a little bit of hair sticking out of his helmet, but what I like about his is he's got just enough hair to have the hair sticking out of the back of the helmet without ever being able to be tackled by it, because it's just small enough that nobody would ever risk going for that instead of some other part of his body, which is very important in case he gets a turnover. And he wrangles everybody down super easily. The number of interceptions he had are absolutely insane. And the other thing that I just connect with Hufanga and Palomalu is that there was at least one, maybe more interceptions I saw where it was like, you don't usually see a defender having a ball that's like tipped or something where it's nearly about to hit the ground and he swoops in to keep it off the ground and keep the ball and get the ball for his team going the other way. So that was huge. He's number 9. Number 8 for me. Oh boy, this may turn into a longer discussion. Number 8 for me is already Will Anderson Jr. I have to be honest. I talked about bias in the offensive episode. There's a bit of bias in this because of the fact that during the season, I was like, when I was watching him with Alabama, I was really having a hard time just being like, okay, first off, I'm not seeing it on a play-to-play basis what makes him so crazy that everybody's talking about. And then the other thing was the fact of how selfish I interpreted him being when I was watching that Texas game and seeing him draw multiple penalties that felt like they were completely about him. And it's contradictory to what I hear all the coaches saying about him and his work ethic and his pride, but seeing that on the field just didn't feel like it was the same way, and it was 2 very personal, selfish penalties, I thought. And then the actual stuff beyond that I have a problem with, and once again, he's still my 8th-ranked player defensively in the draft. I think he's a very good player, and actually, just to be clear now, he's my 2nd-ranked edge, so this is not going to hurt him too badly. Is the fact that I think I didn't see a ton of variety. Actually, I saw more variety in guys ranked lower. I saw a ton of speed, dedication to speed. And the thing is with him is his speed game is so phenomenal that it alone is enough to make him just an insane prospect. And with that in mind, it's like it's hard to discount him for not having a more clubs in his bag. But I do think that needs to change a little bit at the NFL level. I don't love the selfishness, and that's more biased, like I said, because I saw that in one game that I watched, and I did not watch every single Alabama game. So that's where I stand with him, and he's still one of the top defenders in the draft. And honestly, to be honest with you, even if he gets picked number one, I think Trayvon Walker was more of a reach last year getting picked number one than he would be if he went first overall. Then the last two guys for my 10 through 6 ranking are Joey Porter Jr. from Penn State. He's number 7. And Devin Witherspoon, the cornerback from Illinois. Both of these guys just showed tremendous ability. First off, Joey Porter Jr., those Penn State all-white uniforms will never be the cleanest. Will always be the cleanest uniform just in history. And then the bump and run technique is just absolutely incredible to see in the modern day from Joey Porter Jr. Because you're right, a lot of these guys are up pressing, but it really felt like he was getting more physical than the rest of these guys. And I just said he's barely below the level of the other two that I have in front of him. And obviously, Devin Witherspoon is right in front of him. And just to be clear, I think this is an insane draft for cornerbacks. This is an amazing cornerback draft. I said, holy crap, what are they feeding these Illinois defensive backs? Because there's also a third Illinois safety that's like barely off my list that I can't even remember the name of right now. But he hits ridiculously hard, and I didn't even need to go into detail because I just wanted to say that the guy that I'm going to have listed in my top 5, that's the last cornerback left that's ahead of him, is honestly, in my opinion, like a modern day Deion Sanders, and Devin Witherspoon is the modern day Mel Blount. So that's my 10 through 6. I have a feeling that we're going to agree on more of these guys being in your top 15 than the other guys I had. So I don't know what you're going to be able to reveal here, but maybe you have some sort of secret insight that doesn't actually pertain to how good the players are or something.
No, just the only guy that I'm going to comment on really heavy here is Joey Porter Jr. because I do not have him on my top 15 list. And I completely agree, too. I don't know if it was just how stunned I was, stunned by the amount of choice that I had when it came to corners, because this is such a deep corner class. It hasn't been talked about at all. And
nope. No one cares.
And
it's like, what? This is so important. I'm legitimately, I mean, I have this top 15, right? And I gave you Deonte Banks already. I gave you Joey Porter Jr. and I gave you Devin Witherspoon. I have one left.
And Emmanuel Forbes.
Thank you for making sure that I didn't miss that. Yeah, I didn't write his position because I wrote Junior next to his name because he's a small error in my bookkeeping.
Yeah.
But no, yeah. Then there's other guys that I didn't mention just because I already have a third of my thing filled with corners. I didn't put any honorable mentions, but there's 2-3 more guys that are still right there on the fringe. And it's it's insane. And these top guys, they're lights out.
Yeah, no, it is crazy just how deep it is, and with how deep it is, I think that the amount of choice that was available to me there made me overlook Joey Porter Jr. But he's listed in my honorable mentions. But yeah, the bump and run that he has is insane. When I watched a Penn State game last season, they did a little bio thing on him and his family. He seems like an awesome guy too, so that just makes rooting for a guy even better when he just seems so cool. But yeah, this corner class in general is I watched because I watched until I got to a point where I'm like, okay, this guy doesn't have a shot at making it. I had to stop myself when it came to corners because it just got to a point where I was like, oh, all of these guys are just studs. You're getting a starter in possibly the start of the third with how deep the class is.
Yeah, the 7th corner off the board is a starter today.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And by the way, I think this is kind of something that's important too, is 7th outside corner. Like a few years ago when we were doing this, we were watching corners and it was like 50-50 slot guys, 50-50 outside guys. All of these guys are outside starting corners, which is even harder seemingly to find.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not
crazy.
Okay, well then I'll get right into my top 5, and hopefully then I won't have I will have paced myself fairly well. Okay, number 5. I don't even need to look at the notes because frankly I don't think it's even complicated. He's top rated at his position. And that's the safety position. Brian Branch from Alabama is literally I want to compliment him more, but I really don't think I need to do more than this because I have such like a high level of respect for this player and legitimately think that this is one of the best players in the NFL. In Minkah Fitzpatrick, he's just playing the Minkah Fitzpatrick role there, and he is absolutely excelling at it, and he is another version of Minkah Fitzpatrick. When he comes into the league, it will be absolutely seamless, and hopefully the team that gets him isn't dumb enough to trade him within his first 2 seasons on the team because he'll be an all-pro for you probably like half the seasons he plays for the next 10 years. Then the next guy in my top 5 is the most underrated prospect in this entire draft, and that's including the guy that we absolutely went crazy over at the end of our offensive video. This guy is literally, and he is my top-ranked linebacker in this class. He's Luke Kuechly. And that's Jack Campbell from Iowa. He is absolutely outstanding. I have no idea what anyone that is in the business of rating guys is doing to have him where he's projected right now, which is like early 2nd round or something based on what I saw. I don't know if it's just the fascination with pass rushers, and it's like, since we're going to call this edge guy, that this 3-4 edge guy, meaning 3-4 outside linebacker, a linebacker, when we call him up onto the stage, that he's the same as this off-ball linebacker. Like, I legitimately think that there's some sort of friction there. Because it's like, we're gonna say when we come to the stage, first overall, not actually first overall, this isn't a mock draft, but just run with me for a minute. Okay, first overall pick, Will Anderson Jr., linebacker, Alabama. It's like, okay, yes, technically speaking, like his position is outside linebacker, but at the same time, that is not even close to the same position as Jack Campbell, and I don't even think that this is an important discussion most of the time, but it's an important discussion here because Jack Campbell is way too low. He's way too low by everybody. And I don't know what you're going to say about him. Maybe you don't even think he deserves to be in the top 15, but I don't even care. Because the other thing I heard earlier, I had him on my list here. And even I had him on my list already. And then I come to find out earlier, after I have completed my full list, that the person he's working with this offseason, when he's working out alone, is Luke Kuechly. And I'm like, yeah. No, it's literally so obvious, and I wanted so badly to avoid this, and I avoided it for the entire offensive episode, but I am going to, for 10 seconds, speak to my own favorite team, the Bills, and say, if this guy's available and you don't draft him, you are screwing yourselves over so badly. It is unbelievable, and I guarantee that you're not going to select him. I can almost guarantee you're not going to select him, and it's even worse because the Bills actually have a connection to Luke Kuechly, and they're not going to pick him because he hasn't even came to the facilities on a visit. He wasn't even invited on a visit, but I'll leave it at that. And now I'll get to my top 3. These ones, I think these are really simple. I don't even think these are I don't think anybody's going to consider these hot takes, but that Jack Campbell one was my hot take. He was my top-rated linebacker. My top-rated edge at number 3 for my top 15 defensive guys is Tyree Wilson, the edge player from Texas Tech. He literally looks like a monster first. He's basically like the meme of the Baylor guy, that just went around forever. Like, that's actually his build. And I'm I wrote down some words that I don't want to use on here, so I'm going to have to rephrase them. But I basically just said that linemen are going to need to get so much depth in their drops, in their pass drops, against this guy, because he's going to come off the ball so fast. And as soon as they overcommit to try to kick sliding too fast and get out of their positioning, they're screwed, because they're going to get bum rush bulldozered over by him. And the combination of his ability to actually use the speed and the strength is unbelievable. And that's really where I feel he outmatches Will Anderson, is that the Will Anderson speed is probably better than Tyree Wilson, but it's not the combination that Tyree Wilson has. And he's not going to be in any sort of losing battle against really any sort of offensive lineman that he comes in against. Number 2 player in the class, Christian Gonzalez, the cornerback from Oregon. I could talk more about him, but I honestly said it earlier. I mean, it's basically Deion. He's probably not returning punts or kicks like Deion or playing wide receiver, but on the defensive side of the ball, that basically seems like Deion Sanders. And I think most importantly is he's got the swagger to match that too. I mean, is that really surprising? He went to go play for the Ducks and wear all those uniforms. And then I was kind of sad to have to put... I wasn't sad, but it's just like... I always feel bad whenever you got to talk about certain guys who have gotten in trouble for whatever reason. So I'm just going to leave that at that. But I think Jalen Carter, the defensive tackle from Georgia, is the best defensive player in this draft. And I think you only need to see the LSU 4th and inches play to know that just absolutely bulldozing an SEC offensive lineman on 4th and inches out of any play should not happen in an SEC game that is like that level of competition. And I mean, if you want me to go into more depth, I can, but frankly, it's just like Tyree Wilson. He's 300 pounds. His speed is phenomenal somehow at 300 pounds. And his strength is also just ridiculous, as shown in that LSU play. So I don't think I have anything else to say on those guys.
I'm very excited to get into my list here because I feel like we have a great combination of overlap and just no congruence at all at some points. So
which is Jack Campbell then. That's okay. I don't care. You're wrong. If you don't like Jack Campbell, I know you can't answer me yet, but I am so confident in how good Jack Campbell will be. This is the only thing, like I said how confident I am in Anthony Richardson. Sorry, now I revealed it if you didn't watch the other one. If you got 38 minutes into this and you didn't watch the other one first, I kind of am mad at you, but I already revealed how confident I am in that plan for Anthony Richardson. I am equally, probably more confident in Jack Campbell because I don't even think he needs any training. I honestly think he's going to be one of the best linebackers in the league. I'm just saying that. Sorry. But you actually have to go to your list, so I know you can't respond yet, so I'm sorry for attacking you already.
Yeah, dude, calm down, please. All right, well, I'm going to get into my honorable mentions here first. I do have a decent bit, so I'm just going to rattle them off. If you hear a name, if you hear a name that you want to talk about, I know the guy at the very end of it, I'm going to have a comment for, but Brian Bresee, he's a defensive tackle from Clemson. Calijah Cancey, defensive tackle, Pitt. Andre Carter, the second, edge out of Army. Keely Ringo, corner, Georgia. And then Jair Brown, safety, Penn State. The only reason I have Jair Brown on this list is because he is the ball magnet defensive back of the class. He had so many interceptions that he just shouldn't have had because the quarterbacks were just throwing the ball straight at him. And I was looking at his interception numbers the past 2 years and just thinking, this is ridiculous. Like, this guy has highlights of interceptions that I could get. Not that that's a bad thing. I just wanted to highlight that I found the ball magnet player in the secondary because I know that you and I took great pride in diagnosing who those players were 2 years ago when we did draft talk.
We should really hand out. Listen, and you can tell me if you want to give it to a different player, but the player that I would like to name the award after, the Ball Magnon Award, is Duron Harmon. I would love to say the Duron Harmon Award each offseason is just given to the player that has handed the most free interceptions in college football. I would love to hand out that award each offseason now. We should really come up with more than that. That's a good starting point, though. Okay, I didn't watch him. I didn't watch the guy at Army. I did have some notes on the Clemson guy. It just felt like it felt like for his pass rush to work, it needed to be a loop. So it was almost like he didn't really have a pass rush game much at all. If you draft him to stonewall the run, it seems like a decent get, but I don't love. I've made it very clear with what I've said about the defensive linemen thus far that I don't really love drafting for one thing. And then he sometimes seems to, be able to get through when the assignment is poorly handled by the offense. I just thought he was much more of a run stopper than a pass rusher.
Yeah, what interests me with him, and I know that you probably didn't look into this, the dude has been like through hell and back and just has had no consistency at all throughout his entire college career. I mean, I don't want to be the pity party and read off all this stuff, but just to give you a taste of the adversity that he's been through, his sister died of brain cancer this past season, and he had to deal with that. Along with just throughout his career, he's torn his ACL, he's had to undergo shoulder surgery, and had his sophomore season end early due to a kidney infection. So the dude just has had no stability at all throughout his college career to really develop into something. And that's what intrigues me, because when I do see the flashes, I'm like, oh, okay, there's stuff to work with here. It's just like Dabo and that whole coaching staff never had a chance to really work with it because he was never fully healthy, or just had so much stuff going on that stuff comes before football.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I have to wonder, like, it's man, I don't know how to say it properly, but it's just like if he really has lacked that much stability in his life, if his life like is able to stabilize, and hopefully he can stay healthy and not have outside things hurting, his soul or whatever you want to say. Maybe you're right. Maybe he'll be one of the best players in the league. I definitely wasn't paying attention to that.
Yeah. Well, the one thing that I've read, I'm going to move on from it after this. When he had that kidney infection, or leading up to it, he lost a bunch of weight and was playing severely underweight and still dominating, which is just wild to me that he was playing like 35, 40 pounds under what his weight was and still crushing it out there. Yeah. So if he can just physically be stabilized and also everything else in his life, stabilized, I think he has the potential to be something great, but I just didn't want to put him up in the top 15 with everything that level of unsurety surrounding him.
Yeah, no, I understand that. And I did want to touch on the other guy that one of the other guys you mentioned there, in Kelee Ringo. Because it's basically, my entire description for him was basically just fun notes, so I'm glad you brought him up. Is wow, because of how small everybody's getting. I said about him, wow, that's a lot of weight for a nowadays at the cornerback position. He's not like weighing in at like 220 pounds. He's 205 pounds. I was like, that's a lot. And he's 6'2", so it's not even like he's wearing it like he's like huge or anything. But also kind of interesting to say he's leaving after his redshirt sophomore season, which there's very few other guys that I'm like, there was only like one other guy on offense that we didn't get to talk about because he was so irrelevant that it wasn't worth it, that left after their redshirt sophomore season, where I was like, you probably shouldn't have done that. But it's also like, he's probably got the best excuse in the world of leaving after his redshirt sophomore season, considering he had about the biggest play in the national championship game you could possibly have in your career. So it's like, Yeah, I can see why you're like, I had enough of this college stuff. I did that. That was me. Like,
yeah, no, definitely. His name is just fun to say too. But again, the corner class is so deep that he's really fun to watch. That's why I included him, because I was like, dang it, all these guys just, I can't fit them all in there, but I want to at least acknowledge how deep it is in case you didn't get there. And I wanted to put the most fun guy that I had watching as the honorable mention, and that's Keely Ringo.
Nice. I like that.
Getting into the
wait. I didn't even think about this. I was going to tell you that I did this because I knew you basically told me not to do this. So before you get into your top 15, let me tell you about this. Here are your completely abridged. Let's try to do less than 30 seconds on this. Completely abridged kicker and punter rankings. There's a kid named Leg that is playing at West Virginia right now and is a kicker. The NC State kicker in the draft is the best. He went 28 for 29 last season. His name is Christopher Dunn, which means his make rate was 97%. He's 5'8" and 175 pounds, and he didn't miss an extra point in 5 years of college. That seems to be the knock on him. UB's kicker was better than the other guys that are even getting considered to be drafted at the kicker position. But the only other two guys that are worth mentioning are named Jack Podlisny from Georgia, 84%, and Jake Moody, because he made a 59-yarder, which was the longest in college last year. And then for punters, really quick, you either want to draft Bryce Barrington from Michigan State, or Michael Turk from Oklahoma. There you go.
All right.
That was like a full minute instead of 30 seconds, but I just know that you were really worried about that, and that's basically defensive stuff, because we're either adding points on to play defense or we're punting the ball away to play defense.
All right, yeah, I love it. I love how to fit that in. All right, my 15 through 11 here on my top 15. Number 15, I got Isaiah Foskey, edge rusher from Notre Dame. The guy is a sack machine. He broke Notre Dame's all-time sack record in a career. He and all the guys that I have as like 4-3 edge rushers can have just such a unique combination of strength and speed that I think is below Tyree Wilson. So I mean, we'll get to him eventually, but just all these guys, as I'm going to talk about more, and as it gets closer, the strength, size, and speed just gets better with each one of them. And Isaiah Foskey is the lowest out of them, and the reason because of that is the dude would have his blocking, or the offense would make the blocking assignment on him tight ends constantly, and I was thinking, why are they doing that? Because he's beating these guys. So I actually went in and watched like a play-by-play thing of a Notre Dame game, or watched a couple possessions of like quick stuff. I was like, oh, because he does get blocked by tight ends. So the other team was thinking they can just put the tight end out there to block him. And it's because he doesn't use his hands well. He doesn't have any moves. He's relying on either bull rushing the guy or running past him. And if the tight end can square up and get his hands right in the middle of him, he's done for. So I have him there at 15 because I think an NFL team can like coach at least one move into him. And if he gets one move in his bag, I think he's fine. But just watching that right now, it's like, oh, please just do something. Break out a spin move. Do something, please. And he doesn't. But I liked what I saw from him, just strength and speed and also size-wise. 14, safety, Alabama, the other safety, because I liked the other safety better. Jordan Battle. The guy is a heat-seeking missile for the ball. Yeah, I wrote that he's the better of the two Bama safeties. Hits hard, jumps routes, great in the run game, good size. And then I wrote this comment because he was lower on the list, and I watched a lot of SEC safeties at this point, and I said, it seems like every SEC safety has to hit Tank Bigsby as hard as they can whenever they meet him in the hole. Because every single SEC safety I watched was just laying Tank Bigsby out whenever they met him at the line of scrimmage. So, I mean, I don't know if that's a knock on Tank Bigsby or just a big plus for every single safety. How about both? Anything else I had here? Just seeing his hits, you'd think he's a box safety, but he plays great coverage to accompany it. Really liked what I saw from him. 13 from edge rusher out of Kansas State, Felix Anudike Uzama, 6'4", 256, and moves so much faster than that. The dude is so quick. His bull rush while being blocked by top offensive line prospects is faster than some guy's speed as a free rusher, which was just ridiculous. It didn't even seem like he was using any strength either in his bull rush. His whole plan was just, I am going to sprint as fast as I can and have that be my strength, because it really, watching him, felt like he didn't have great upper body strength or how he used his hands. All of it was coming from his legs and his base, and using that to move the guys out of the way. Really loved watching him just go to town on these bull rushes. And with that speed, he has great pursuit and awareness for the play. I don't know how many screens I saw this guy blow up because he was reading it perfectly and getting out there before the running back did to break the pass up. But with that being said, he's still super raw and has like no moves to him besides his bull rush. But with that raw athleticism, you could turn that into something just so much better than what he has right now.
He's playing on the edge.
Yeah, what do you want to say? Huh?
He's playing on the edge?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't even see him.
Okay. Yeah, he's a 4-3 edge rusher.
Okay.
He's a defensive end. At number 12, I've got and this is one of your guys. Not on your list, but he's one of your guys. Jamie Robinson, safety out of Florida State. The dude, I love this safety class too. I think I like this safety class a little bit more than you do. But his pursuit and closing speed is off the charts. And then I said, I dare the bravest of running backs to meet Jamie Robinson at the line to gain. You will not win that battle. He was just laying the lumber every single time he met a guy one-on-one. It was great to see. With him, you're getting a guy that can cover like a safety, but when he's in the box, it's like having an extra linebacker on the field. Lays the wood and has swag. What more can you ask for? And one thing that I did appreciate about him, opposed to the other top safeties in the class, is he doesn't have a top corner playing with him in the secondary. Well, at least in this draft, he doesn't have a top corner playing with him. He is a standout of his unit. I mean, Illinois has two great safeties plus Devin Witherspoon. I mean, Oregon's safeties are good too. They're not coming out, or I think one of them's coming out. The other one isn't, but they're with Christian Gonzalez. And a couple other secondaries too. A couple other guys I'll get to. They have other good guys with them in their secondary. It feels like Jamie Robinson had to make up for a lot of the other guys that are with him. I know you're a big FSU fan, so who am I to talk to you about this? You know it better than me. But just from what I noticed and what I was watching. And lastly, for the first group of five, number 11 linebacker out of Arkansas, Drew Sanders. He spent his first 2 years at Bama as an edge rusher and then transferred to Arkansas and morphed more into like an off-ball linebacker, but still was used as an edge rusher, which was such a unique combination because you watch him and there was another guy. I was going to include talking about him too with, there's another guy, Ivan Pace Jr. from Cincinnati. He played edge rusher at Miami, and then he transferred to Cincinnati, and they used him as like a off-ball linebacker plus edge rusher. Ivan Pace Jr. plays like a defensive end edge rusher that you move to try to play off-ball linebacker because he just can't do it. His coverage just is not good. But he can get to the quarterback. Bruce Sanders plays great off the ball and then is a heat-seeking missile for the quarterback. What else do I have here for him? Shows great instinct for a guy that's new to the position. Obviously, with that edge rusher past, he's better at going forward than he is dropping back, but that's just for now. I mean, you could develop him into being better. Good awareness for where the hole is and fills it in a hurry. Hits hard, decleating tackles, plays well when the ball is in the air. I really liked what I saw from him, especially for a guy that it's his first year playing this position, which crazy for me to think about that he played that well in a new position he hasn't played before and tore it apart and had to like change his body for that as well. Those are my first 5 guys.
Okay. Can you give me all of them in the number again?
Yeah. Number 15, Isaiah Foskey, edge rusher.
Stop. Stop after each of them. Isaiah Foskey, I did not watch him. Love his name, though.
Okay. Number 14, safety Alabama, Jordan Battle.
Okay, this is tough because what I was gonna say about the safeties is that there are a bunch of safeties I like a bunch, but the problem is it's crazy because basically right after you escape my top 15, it's probably 15 to 30 maybe is probably all corners and safeties. Like almost all of it. So that's something that's like hard to say. And also you have to remember that my honorable mentions were any other Alabama defenders that are coming into the draft. Because he was included. The linebacker Toa also wanted him to be included. But like without just naming, because there was even another guy that I'm not mentioning that I didn't have on my list as well. But the interesting thing with both of them, Branch and Battle, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Is that I did watch their games and I did see the impact they had. While all the other safeties, except for Jamie Robinson, I can only say that I really saw their highlights because of the teams they were on. So it was really tough to like try to balance that, and I just felt like I didn't feel like based off what I know about Jamie Robinson, I think he's at least a second-round pick. Based off what you get in a limited sample size of Jamie Robinson, it's like I can kind of understand why people would say that's a third, that's a fourth-round pick. When it comes to both the Bama safeties, I'm pretty close to the level on you with Battle. I do think you're drastically underrating Branch. If Battle's ahead of Branch, I mean, I feel like you've at least got to put him in the same group of 5 then if you're going to put Battle in the top 15. I have trouble with that one.
All right.
Yeah.
13, I had Felix Anudike-Uzomah, edge rusher out of Kansas State.
And I didn't watch him either, so I'm sorry.
Okay, then. 12, I had Jamie Robinson.
Listen, I can't yell at you for that. I can't.
Jamie Robinson is UB doesn't have any guys that are going into the draft.
Hang on. I got this. I got this. If you are watching a game live or you're watching a game in full, it is not even describable how clearly obvious it is how important Jamie Robinson is to that FSU defense. If it's just the highlights, it's like I don't get it, and it's as simple as that.
That's another factor that I kept in my head too, because I mean outside of UB, the most college football I was watching was Florida State, so I know just the impact that he has on that defense.
You didn't even watch the bowl game though, right?
I watched a little bit of it.
Okay, well, if you watch the bowl game in full, oh my God, it's go. I mean, it's all same to anyone listening to this. If you want an idea of how good he is, go watch the bowl game against Oklahoma.
All right, and 11, Drew Sanders, linebacker, Arkansas, and you've already talked about him as an honorable mention.
Yeah, I don't. Man, it's tough. It's tough because he was the number one ranked linebacker that I watched, and it was like not me. Like for the rankings I was using, he's the number one linebacker, and it's like, yes, kind of. I'm just throwing my hands in the air. I don't know. It wasn't enough. There wasn't enough that was impressing me about how he was playing linebacker, and there wasn't enough impressing me about how he was rushing the passer to say either way. It's a great combo, but it's right on the edge like I have him. So, yeah, I don't know.
I like what you can do with it and also what you can make him into. So I guess I'm factoring in potential a little bit there. But, let's move on from that and talk about the actual number one rated linebacker in this class, who I have at number 10, and that is Jack Campbell.
Thank God.
I completely agree with what you're saying too, and I wanted to put him higher. I just couldn't find a way to organize it, and also I liked where I had the people ahead of him. I liked the number that I had with them, and I didn't want to change it, and I'm so glad I didn't because the next few are going to be so great. But yeah, Jack Campbell, love the Luke Kuechly comparison, and again, I'm right there with the Bills, or with your opinion on the Bills there, where it's just, if you don't take him, you're so dumb, and you lost Tremaine Edmonds, who you like because he is just a freakazoid of a person that is so long and lengthy and built that way. Oh, look, Jack Campbell's 6'5" and a monster.
Yeah,
how about you just him to replace him?
Except
he plays sound coverage too.
No, except for he actually has the mentality of a linebacker and doesn't have the running back hit him instead of him hitting the running back.
Yeah. But just what I had written down here for Jack Campbell real quick. Great size for a Mike linebacker. Speed coupled with that size. Can recover with ease when he overplays the run. Will be something to work on when he gets to the NFL, but that's fine. Instinctual off the ball. Coverage looks natural for him. He runs routes for the guys he's covering. Gets down and dirty in the run game. All around stud in all aspects. Defense looks good blitzing. He does everything right that's asked of him, and I feel like that's just an Iowa football player of, oh yeah, you do everything sound on your side of the ball. All your assignments are properly handled. Yeah, cool. You can play football for Iowa. But he excels at it, and I don't understand how he is considered a end of the first round, start of the second round kind of guy, because if I was a GM, I'd be taking him in like the top 10, top 15. I mean, obviously, he's in my top 15, but yeah, ridiculous. Number 9.
Okay. I'm sorry for cutting you off more. It's just, there hasn't been a prospect like him. And granted, remember, I'm still putting 3 guys in front of him, and you're putting a bunch of guys in front of him, and you're still praising him like crazy. But like, there hasn't been a linebacker come out like that in how long? Like, we've just had athletic freak linebackers. We haven't had any linebackers come out in years.
Mm-hmm.
And he, not only is he a linebacker, but he's still athletic enough to do the athletic freak things, which just makes it like, I mean, I'd literally be, if I was anywhere, I feel like outside of the top 8, it's not even a question. Like, he would be like a player I'd have to consider. Like, maybe if you're top 5 picks, you consider trading down a little if you really want him. But literally right there, I'd be considering him. The problem is, the thing that you have to consider in the NFL draft is, if if I know no one else is going to take this player I love, it's really stupid for me to take him now instead of just trading back just a little bit and getting him later. That way I can have some more value with it. And I'm sorry for cutting you off there. I'll let you go for the next.
No, you're fine. I mean, your point's valid, and I agree with it. But I do like this next couple pair here. Number 9, Sidney Brown, safety, Illinois. And yeah, the Hufanga comparison is right there. The dude is all over the field. The one thing that prevented me from using the Hufanga word with him, though, he does not just look like a man possessed when he gets the ball in his hands and he's returning it for a touchdown. He looks like he's trying to be decisive about it instead of just, I need to sprint to the end zone as fast as possible in a beeline right there. But just all over the place. Not as long as not as long as the one other safety I have above him. But he's outstanding with his coverage. He brings a level of physicality that I can't say I saw from any other safeties except for the guy that's above him. Comes up, plays the run, strong hands when you ask him to press too, and just tries to decleat quarterbacks whenever he gets a free shot on them.
Yeah. Can I add on to that? Really, it's basically just a question that's open to you too. Is it the fact that he's 5'10"? Is that supposed to scare us? Like, I'm actually not sure. I mean, it's less so. It's lesser than Jack Campbell, where it's like Jack Campbell. I'm like, this is ridiculous how underrated he is. But it's like, what's keeping Sidney Brown lower? Is it the 5'10" instead of being like 6 foot or something? Like, do you have any idea?
I don't know. I didn't see anything that was concerning his height. It's just teams don't value safety that much anymore. And I mean, it's you and I think all the time about us going through that 2021 draft and just seeing how much depth there was at the safety position, and everyone said that Trevon Moehrig is the best one.
I know. It doesn't make any sense. And the funny thing is that, and then all those people that also watched so much Trevon Moehrig that they got excited about it, they also brought the other TCU kid along that I can't even remember the name of, just because, hey, I wasted time watching this safety, let me watch the other one. And they both stunk. They're both awful. And it's like, Ardarius
Washington.
Oh my God. No, it's just like, I don't know, man. But it's also just like, I think the other reason that you can also get so much talent there is just because it doesn't ask you to be either as like physically gifted in terms of, I guess, just like gifted in terms of like height or size that you may have, or even like physical ability. Like, you can be good at playing safety, being a very average build, but just by knowing the game exceptionally well. And that's not really the case at any other position. And I think that's why we get so many athletes that we end up complimenting there, because those oftentimes end up being guys that are just really smart, intelligent football players.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Number 8, Will Anderson Jr., edge rusher, Alabama. Yeah, I know. I was shocked too that you and I had him in the same exact spot.
We have Sidney Brown in the same spot too.
Yeah, I know. I'm excited about that. And I don't want to read what I wrote down for him word for word. I wrote the most about him than for any other guy. But just to start off, the first line that I wrote was, do I think Will Anderson is good? Yes. Do I think he is as good as everyone is hyping him up to be? No. He has a lot of sack production. A lot of his sack production comes when he's a free rusher and no one blocks him. It was insane watching him and seeing how many times he just goes unblocked. And I can't blame him, because he's on such a scary team as Alabama, where there's going to be a guy that gets lost from time to time because you're trying to outthink Nick Saban and that whole team and block every other 5-star recruit that's on that D-line. But it was crazy to me just how often he was a free rusher and got a sack there. I'm not going to blame him for that. If they're going to let you get a free shot on the quarterback, go take it. He's really quick. He could beat the running back to the mesh point on a play action. Like, that's how fast he is. But it just doesn't come with, what did I say here? Yes, this is a skill, but it does not show elite pass rusher qualities outside of his speed. Like, he is so elite in the speed, and you and I have had so many rants in the past too, where it's just like, yeah, this guy's the top edge rusher. All that he's good at is blowing past the guy. He can beat him with his feet. He can sprint past the 300-pound tackle.
Yeah, may as well put Chris Johnson on the edge.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait, I actually like that you mentioned that one thing though, because I didn't talk about that. That is actually one insane abilities of his, is that you can't run a read option with him as the read defender. That's actually kind of insane.
And it's not even because he makes, like, and this isn't a shot at like his football awareness or whatever, but it's not even that he makes the right read there. It's just that he's gonna beat you to the mesh point and tackle both the running back and the quarterback.
Yep.
He lacks a level of technicality or technical ability when it comes to pass rushing. But as we have seen the NFL in terms of prospects, values guys that can smoke dudes on the edge rather than use their hands to maneuver around them. When I think of Will Anderson, my mind instantly goes to the Texas game from this past season and how he made so many boneheaded plays that could have cost Bama the game. So you and I are right there, because you and I think we're on the phone with each other watching that Bama and Texas game and just going, wow, I can't believe Will Anderson just did that again. This guy's going to cost him the game. And he almost did it.
Could you imagine if they lost that game? Like, I just wish I could. I don't often wish I could see the reality of things, but I can't believe that we thought that was so important, and I'm half worried that I influenced you too much in talking about that, and maybe even saying that in the moment. But I don't know. I feel like your opinion still would have been the same. Like, we were watching the same game. I don't know. But then the real problem is that nobody else even... I never heard another soul mention it. Like, nah, that's the number one pass rusher. He can do what he wants. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. How, like, he had at least three penalties on him. Yeah. I think it was at least three.
From what I remember, there was at least two that were bad, like just like extremely dumb. And I think I remember, like, I think you're right, and I remember there being at least three penalties against him, but two of them were just like, what are you doing? You must not care about this team at all for what you're doing. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know, but I mean, with that all being, we have so many gripes about him, and it's so funny just griping about a dude, because you have him at 8 and everyone else has him at 1.
Yes.
You just have to.
He should be, like, before half the teams have had the opportunity to pick, he should be off the board. But I'm going to tell you why he's awful.
Yeah, but he's still good. I mean, like I said, he's a guy that like you said, you can't run the read option against him. You can't run play action against him because he's going to beat you to the mesh point and just blow up the play. So, yeah, I mean, he's number 8, so he's not bad by any means. Number 7, safety, Texas A&M, Antonio Johnson. Lengthy, hard hitter. He is a forced fumble machine. I don't think I saw an edge rusher, defensive lineman, linebacker force as many fumbles in their highlight tape than Antonio Johnson did. Uses his length well in coverage to swat down passes that are just even in the area code of where his man is, which was, I mean, beautiful to watch. Just him go up and swat the ball down when it got in the vicinity of his guy. Also, real nice to just see a guy that's like 6'3", 6'4", go out there and play safety. I love seeing lengthy safeties like that. That was fun. I said when he tackles, he tackles. Does not shy away from running up on running backs. And in the SEC, laying him out. And then I just put LOL Tank Bigsby. Because every single SEC safety is required by law to just put a licking on Tank Bigsby. Yeah, for how lengthy he is I can't remember if he's 6'3" or 6'4", 6'3.5". Just how lengthy he is and how good his coverage was when it finally got to the part where it was showing his hard hits. I'm like, he's really good. He is not just straight physicality or not just straight coverage. He has that physicality to him, and I thoroughly enjoyed watching him.
Was he number 7 or 6 for you?
7.
Okay. I have to be honest with you. He out of the 10 safeties I watched, he was number 9, and frankly, it's just because I saw the hits with the ball coming loose. I have no faith for whatever reason that's going to transfer. I really. I actually said what I actually said about him, and maybe you would be more interested in this, is I said I'd probably be more interested in asking him to put on 30 pounds and play linebacker.
Yeah. Well, this guy is this year's Melifonwu.
I mean, Melifonwu was kind of a joke because it was like there's no way you're going to get a corner to play linebacker. No, I mean with how he hits, I'd legitimately I think he would be a better player as a linebacker.
Yeah.
And I didn't think that the coverage was overly spectacular, obviously, because I didn't even really write a note about it. The only guy I had below him was the Iowa safety, who, we ironically earlier said that all Iowa defensive players are great, but no, that Iowa safety is
great. I said sound.
Sound. Okay. Give me 6.
All right. 6 is Tyree Wilson. Which I'm gonna say this here too. He isn't even my best edge rusher. But all the guys below him are building up to him. Tyree Wilson, number 6, just a bull off the edge. Him and why did I include that? Hold on. Will Anderson. I was so confused there because I just wrote Anderson. Him and Anderson being considered the top 2 edge prospects on my list shows just how big of a difference there is in play styles when it comes to like being an edge rusher. And I mean, he's more of a defensive end than he is like an edge rusher, but just like considering both those guys edge rushers is hilarious because Will Anderson plays strictly off speed, and then Tyree Wilson is 6'6", 275, and I mean, it's maybe a step and a half slower than Will Anderson is, which is just hilarious with how much bigger he is.
He's moving. Do you mean a half?
Yeah, sure. I don't know. I wanted to phrase that. I didn't want to give him too much credit, so I guess it was better to overestimate than underestimate. He was moving guys around with one arm when rushing the passer. Great in the run game too. Just does not stop. He is always moving along the line to make a play. Great. It so much goodness watching him. I mean, I'm speechless right now trying to talk about him because it was so good, and it's so funny that I'm saying this because he's not even in my top 5.
Yeah, no, I'm frankly. I mean, it looks like as long as they're not completely outside of your top 15, 2 of our top 5 are going to match. But I have to say I'm getting a little confused about. I'm missing at least some guys. I don't really know who's about to come up. So I don't think I had necessarily anything to add on the Tyree Wilson thing. So go ahead.
Okay, so you want me to just jump into this top 5 here?
Go ahead.
All right, number 5, and he's not the best, but he is my favorite corner. Out of Mississippi State, Emmanuel Forbes. He was just my favorite corner to watch, and I know that I probably ranked him too high because I loved him so much, but he's so underweight and he is so fat. He ran a 4.35 at the combine. That is just so stupid. But he looks lengthier than he is. I wrote that he looks lengthier than he is. Looking back, I just said that because he looks scrawny. And I was like, oh, this guy's scrawny. He has to be like 6'3" playing corner.
Did you know his weight?
No, I don't know.
166.
166. Yeah, all right, he's 6'1", 166 or something like that, right?
That sounds about right to me.
But it's just so fast. Speed. Gets the ball like it's like no one else in this class. When he gets the ball, his hands. When he gets the ball in his hands, he becomes a problem. He has the Palomalu Hufanga ability of just electricity when he gets the ball in his hands. Like it's gonna take every offense. It's going to take every single one of those offensive linemen to figure it out and try to stop him.
I've got to disagree with this. The Hufanga Palomalu thing is this weird innate ability to be able to create a turnover and then basically have no ability that resembles like a normal. It's almost like Tim Tebow's throwing motion if it were a defensive return. If it were a defensive return, like it's that bad. Emmanuel Forbes knows what to do with a football when he gets it in his hand, and that's how I'm gonna fight against that. But
right,
oh my god, he's elite.
Yeah, he has the points responsible for ability. Then I guess of returning. He's the touchdown ability. Loved watching him. So much fun. Yeah, he's my number 5.
Nice. I'm ready for the next one. I'm not really upset with that. I mean you heard how I was talking him up. Frankly, the only thing I was doing is giving him excuses to be that high. I wasn't doing the opposite that you may have expected me to do, where I was going to knock him down. I was just being like, wow, no, I'm not mad. Go ahead.
Yeah. All right, number 4 is my highest rated edge rusher, and I don't know where you have him ranked because he wasn't even on your list. Nolan Smith out of Georgia. I said this guy is better than Will Anderson, and he can also cover too, which is awesome. He uses his speed to get past tackles, but also maneuvers through gaps and fills holes. How is he not rated higher? I know the Georgia defense is stacked with studs, so it makes everyone look great, but this guy is something else. Just he really popped off on tape. I mean, I watched all of Will Anderson, and if you're going to be a 3-4 edge rusher, they're going to call upon you to have to cover sometimes. I mean, depending how creative your defensive coordinator is. And Georgia was using Nolan Smith in some very creative ways, and his ability to cover was phenomenal. It was scary good how I'm just seeing this guy beat dudes off the edge constantly, and hit the quarterback as hard as he can. Fill the hole in the run game and blow up the running back. Hit Tank Bigsby as hard as he can because everyone has to do that in the SEC. And then just see him, he's on an island with a tight end. And he just swatted that down like he is a safety covering him. That's ridiculous. Loved watching him play and was so shocked to see what I saw with him.
So, for me, considering it was edge, I really wasn't. I saw him line up at edge more. I actually did. My positions this year were based off what I was watching. It wasn't based off 2 years ago when I really screwed up and let the things that already had their positions listed. I was like, okay, I have to go into linebackers, D-line, defensive end, and edge, like any positions that are listed there. And I just have to determine myself what they are playing. Because I was like, otherwise I can't do it. So for me, when I was watching him, I was looking at him at edge. Frankly, I put almost zero stock into into anything that has to do with him really covering. And the other thing I said is, I really, with what I wrote about him, I would say that I thought of him similarly to Will Anderson, but I didn't think that he did as much as he did. So, like style, Will Anderson's style, but I didn't think he was getting to that level.
Okay.
I have to say, the edge and D-line ratings for me are about as much, like as consistently disagreeable with what the consensus seems to be as it always is. I never agree with the D-line ratings almost ever. I flip a ton of guys around, and I know he was ranked fairly high, but yeah, it just wasn't anything too impressive to me. Honestly, it seemed fairly, to be honest with you, with what I can even remember about what I saw with Trayvon Walker, it honestly basically seems fairly similar to me. So I don't know if you're going to take that as a like good thing because he was the number one pick, or so is that a good thing, or is that
I'll look really smart in the short term if that's the case. I don't know about the long term.
Yeah, that's basically what I got on that. I don't have a strong opinion. I have to say there's more than this. To be honest, hang on. Let me just read you like some of these guys: Lukas Van Ness, Myles Murphy, Nolan Smith, Bryan Bresee, and BJ Ojulari are kind of all guys that like I could basically be. Like you could almost like toss them in a blender to me, and it's like I wouldn't really have like a huge difference in how I felt about all of them. Like, I really wouldn't. I don't know. That's not even to say necessarily that the guys in front of him, like Derek Hall, who actually made my top 15, probably just him. The other guys in front of him, I'm a little more confident in, but including him, you could probably put almost any of those guys at 15 instead of him, because I had him at 15, didn't I? Or I had him at 14 behind Deontay Banks, who's playing a different position. But, you know, it's just like, it was really hard after I saw like a certain number I liked, and then after that it was really like close together, if that makes sense. I don't know, but yeah, I have to say I am surprised that you came up with that. I really wouldn't have thought you were going to do that.
Well, all right. I can't wait to not surprise you at all with the last three guys that I have, though.
Who am I?
I'm just gonna rattle all three of them off in a row.
I know who they are.
Yeah. Number 3, Devin Witherspoon is. I love that you said Mel Blount, because for my analysis of him, I wrote modern day Mel, because he. How can you not think of Mel Blount when you watch him? Hits so hard. And then number 2, Christian Gonzalez. Number 1, Jalen Carter. So you and I agreed on that. I mean, I fully agree with you with the Jalen Carter thing. Off the field stuff sucks, but I don't know how you can watch. I mean, you and I don't know how many defensive prospects we watched, but like I want to say I watched at least 50. Definitely more than that, but just on the conservative side there, and none of them just dominate at their position as much as Jalen Carter does. And the whole time I'm watching him, all that I could think is just, if I could just put this dude in Jordan Davis's body, like give him like 2 more inches, 3 more inches, that would be ridiculous.
Then Jordan Davis would be good.
Just imagine Jordan Davis, but good.
Man.
But that,
I love the NFL's abilities to just fall in love with a guy who weighs a certain amount.
I mean, if any team was going to
Jordan Davis is not the worst example of it. There are significantly worse examples.
Oh yeah,
Tyler Shelvin. But with that being said, it's like it's still funny how often it happens at the defensive tackle spot where it's just like, oh my god, this guy's huge. Jalen Carter does not meet that designation.
Yeah, and he is huge, but has so much speed and strength with that as well to just make it inconceivable. But backtracking from 1 to 2, because I think Jalen Carter will be good. I don't know what's going to happen with all this off the field stuff, where he's going to get drafted, how that's going to affect what goes on, like in the off season or even in the regular season, how that's going to affect him. The one guy that I'm so interested to see be in the NFL is Christian Gonzalez, because of just the swagger that he has, and I mean, I wasn't thinking Dion, but Dion does capture it perfectly of what he has. And the play that comes to my mind that I watched of his, when you said that he's like Dion, he has the swag. He transferred from Colorado State to Oregon. They played Colorado State. Obviously, they're in the Pac-12, but they played Colorado State. He picked off the quarterback for Colorado State, and when the quarterback for Colorado State tackled him, he just looked right at him and tapped him on his head, and then ran off to the sideline right after he made the pick. And I'm just like, that I love this guy. That was like the third play that I watched of his too. I'm like, yep, all right. He's gonna be a stud. He just what did I write here just for transparency's sake? For a guy this good in coverage, he should not be able to tackle as well as he does. Ball instincts are off the charts. He makes plays left and right while the ball is in the air. Not just picks that make him look good in coverage either. He's got he's got good length to him. Uses all of it to swat the ball down, and phenomenal in press. Just he does everything great that you want your corner to do. He can tackle, he can cover, he can press, he can play off his man, he can blitz, he has swag. I mean, there's nothing else you want more from a corner than what he has.
No, yeah, I think with him I was even like, I didn't know what to expect going in, and I was like, oh wow, this guy's the real deal. Like very quickly, I was like, wow. But no, that's great. I think I'm all set with everything. I actually have to be honest. I'm surprised that we both had the same top two. I was not necessarily expecting that, because we didn't even talk about either of these guys before this.
Nope.
We did talk about Anthony Richardson before, so that made a little more sense to me. But I don't know. Hope some NFL GM for some reason listens to these two 21-year-olds talk about the draft from a very
if it's anyone, I hope it's Brandon Bean. If it's anyone, I hope it's Brandon Bean. Draft Jack Campbell.
Dude,
draft Jack Campbell, please.
But also, if you're going to do what so many GMs say they do, and you're going to draft best player overall, that would be Anthony Richardson. So if he's on the board, you're technically required to draft him. But even if he's on the board, I won't be too mad if you pick Jack Campbell instead. Or Zay Flowers. Those are my wish list guys. If you picked any of those three guys, I wouldn't knock the pick. Even though Anthony Richardson is definitely speaking a waste of a pick, I would literally be I would be so happy that he didn't get to go play for another team. So happy. Do it. Yeah, but I'm all set. And also, just so all of you know, that guarantees that those three players will not become Buffalo Bills. So
you can take it to the bank.
Yep.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
I think we could cut this here.